Point in every season has a jumping off point, and this is it. L'Jarius Sneed has a tag. Chris Jones is out there in the wind. Where does it go right now? They got 2 jobs to get done today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in. It is Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every single day, folks. Welcome to us. We appreciate you joining us. Make sure you like and sub and hit the bell on YouTube where we start. Sometimes we're even live on there at least 5 days a week. And then you can get over to the Spotify and the Apple and all the audio platforms because we're free and available on every single platform all the time. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. They make every moment more, and you can do the same. Right now, new customers get $150 back by winning a $5 bet. That's $150 back if your bet wins. Join FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And if you want even more information, you can go over to the text line where all of our everydayers are at, and we love you guys. We appreciate everybody who's subscribed multiple places, doing everything they can, listening every day. We want to give back a little bit. You can get extra information at 816-357-8781. He's Chris Clark. He runs Chiefs Corner, where you can get all the capology, terribly important this time of year. In fact, we're going to give you a cap update today, as well as all the quarterback metrics, all the stuff that is pertinent to your team every single day is at Chiefs Corner. I'm Ryan Tracy. Draft-centric team building. You can find all my work at rogueapc.com. We're the home of the athletic matrix, where I tell you about functional athleticism, not just comparative scores. And then NFL33.com about team building, drafting, how you make champions. That's what we're about over there. And RGR Football, where I break down the Chiefs in a little bit more detail, along with my crew. A lot to go on here today, and this was kind of the marching order. You get the combine out of the way. Some guys are making decisions today. Later in the show, we're going to talk about some of that. Chris Jones is going to have, an interesting week, it feels like. We'll talk about that coming up, but it starts right now with the official laying of the franchise tag, the non-exclusive for L'Jarius Sneed. It's there. And now this turns into what I think is going to be an interesting, I called it a saga for the show, but I think it can go back and forth because L'Jarius Sneed is going to be exploring, already has in all likelihood, explored some possibilities for trade or free agent contracts. The Chiefs have the tag now. Now it's a negotiation between what do you want for a contract and what do we want if we can't get one and we have to have a trade. I think this is going to be a lot of back and forth, and I hope that it can get done sooner rather than later, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Man, it's going to be tough. When you start talking about Sneed, you start talking about Chris Jones, all of it is going to be very tough. So it's going to be something to watch over the next couple of weeks. And they have, like you said, and we'll talk about Jones here a little bit with the March 11th date. But when you look at Sneed, it's a question of, do you want to sign a corner to a long-term deal paying close to somewhere between $17 million and probably $20 million a year when you've been able to draft as well as you have? And don't get me wrong, I know Sneed brings a lot to the table, but that is a big question.
It certainly is. And there's always talent, and this team, and this front office in particular, has been very good about identifying talent at his position in the past. It comes down to this. As of now, when the new cap year starts, he will count at 19.8.0 or 802 or whatever it is.
Yep.
A healthy tag. And so there's an optimism there. Like you said, that range could be down 17-ish, could be even less, depending on what the market is out there. If they were able to get that done, you could actually save a little money versus the tag.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's APY, not what it's going to cost against the cap if he signed to a long-term deal. That's going to be something completely different and is going to take into account how much he gets in the signing bonus. And the Chiefs have always been doing minimum salary for the year. So figure it's probably just a little over $1 million, and then whatever his signing bonus is divided by how many years that they sign him for.
And can you lay that out a little bit more? Like the cap number comes from both the base and the bonus, as well as a couple of other factors, but that's how the Chiefs can get low first years, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how they get low first years. And I'm not going to say he's going to get $20 million, but let's just use that as a number since it's easy and they give him a 4-year contract. He would have a low base, and I don't know the exact number, but it's going to be around $1 million. So I'm just going to use that for ease of this conversation. And then his signing bonus is going to get split into 4 years. So it'd be $5 million a year. So his cap number would be around $6 million. Add in potential per game bonuses. They do that. They've done that on some of their bigger contracts. Add in workout bonuses. That's the type of stuff that goes into this. And so that's the big question is, what is going to be all in this contract? you could see Sneed on this team for probably close to $7 million a year, depending on how they structure the contract and if they put in more of the per game bonuses.
I think that's an interesting way to go about building it. And if they can't get that done, there is this concept of you tag and trade. And I know there's going to be exploration out there. I do think there will be interest. I'm not sure how strong, because the complication here on a tag and trade is always that the expectation is you have to have a new contract with anyone that is a trade partner. And so that makes that a two-pronged attack. And I think that takes a little bit of time and, again, another opportunity to go back and forth. So I'm concerned about getting it done and not having it linger into what you have to get done with Chris Jones in particular, but the rest of the free agent class.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big deal. I mean, you're sitting here looking at free agency with the Chiefs having limited funds available for free agency that starts in just over a week at this point. By the time you listen to this, it's going to be just a little over a week with the legal tampering period opening up. So that's going to be a big question. How are they going to do that? There's a lot to talk about when you start looking at the cap and what the Chiefs can do. We've talked about a little bit of it. They have a lot of flexibility with Patrick Mahomes, and I expect that they're going to use some of that. The question is when are they going to use some of that? Are they going to wait until they get into free agency? Because maybe one of the guys that they looked at in Mike Evans was taken off the market today. Maybe you're not going to be spending the money that you thought you're going to be spending in free agency. Yeah,
it does simplify matters when possible targets are no longer there to materially chase. I do think that's going to be a factor that goes in there. I was not huge on the reality aspect of Mike Evans getting here. Him ending his career in Tampa felt like that was probably the most likely scenario all the way around. Well, but that's just one example of the possibilities. Possibilities is the problem.
Yeah, the biggest issue with him would be contract length. I mean, he's not a young wide receiver, so giving him a 5-year contract doesn't make a ton of sense, which means he's going to have a huge cap hit year one, which is going to complicate everything else. So that's really where you're going to get into issues. And that's where Kansas City is when they're looking at all the free agents. Is you got to be looking at the guys that are probably going to have at least 4 or 5 years left in the tank until you're getting into maybe the second or third wave of free agency. And then maybe you can get some more veteran guys that are going to be lower base salary type guys that aren't going to take up a bunch of cap.
Yeah, and that's going to be what it comes down to. Now, it gets off to this start with the tag, but there's an important date coming. It starts Chris Jones's clock. They have to get this done by March 11th if they don't want the whole thing to unravel and take even longer. How do they get that done? On the backside of this, here on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing that you would do if you had an extra hour in your day? There's lots of different things that I would look at doing. Taking a nap might be one of them at this time of year. It is really something that I could use a little bit more of is sleep. But maybe you want to go read a book. Maybe you want to go and spend an hour outside. Lots of different options. What would you do if you had that extra spare time? A lot of us have our lives and we're wishing that we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, go give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today feed. It's 24/7. It's everything that you want all in one place, and you can jump on it anytime you like. After work, after your workout, first thing in the morning, whatever works for you. Whatever works for Chris Jones is going to be the next question because there's a lot that goes into this. And I always love the term legal tampering, which sounds like an oxymoron, or maybe it's just the way that it comes out of my mouth. But the way that you attack that, the way that you attack it is by doing a little pre-work before the actual availability on the 13th. But that moves the timetable up for Chris Jones. Yes, they're confident. Clearly, by putting the tag on L'Jarius Sneed, the younger player, they feel that they're more confident getting a deal done with Chris. Quite a turnaround from last summer, to tell you the truth. But
It's
it also
interesting.
leaves room for back and forth, right? Because if you're not, if you come up short and you can't get a deal done, as of the 11th, he can talk to anyone out there that he wants, and they have no repercussions. They have no way to gain anything back other than a comp pick. Should someone throw an absolute Brinks truck at him, that's a risk. And I'm a little bit concerned about it. I thought when we were having these tag discussions about who would get it, I was pretty torn, and this was the scenario I was worried about. Do you think that they can get this done in what is now a week?
I'll be shocked. I'll be honest. I will be shocked if they get this done in a week. To me, you look at this situation and there's a couple of things that play into it. Chris Jones was going to cost him $32.5 million for a franchise tag. That is obviously substantial. It's, almost $15 million more than Sneed is going to get. A little less than that, but close. And that's a big hit on the cap. And the big question that you have here, and this kind of goes against what I said in the last segment, but it's the other part of the reality is if you want Chris Jones here, you're going to have to give him a long-term deal. How many years are you going to be willing to give him? Because you want to prorate his signing bonus as much as you can and get that lower cap hit if you can. There's a scenario where maybe you're giving him, $30-40 million signing bonus, and then your cap number becomes somewhere around $10 million if you give him a $40 million signing bonus on a 4-year deal. That's just for the signing bonus proration. So he would still cost close to $12 million just with his base salary and the salary bonus proration. So lots of issues that go into this, and it's really hard. I mean, you would love to bring him back, and I think that they want to bring him back. But the other part of the reality and the thing that they have to realize, and I guarantee they do, is he's 30 years old. How many more years is he going to be as productive as he's been able to be? I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to get paid. He does. But how many more years can he go being productive anywhere close to what he's been the past several years, which has been phenomenal?
And that's what I think is part of the calculation here in allowing him to be unprotected right now for all intents and purposes, is because they feel like that is a risk for other teams. I think someone's willing to do it. I just don't know who. But if you had to try to get this done by the 11th before anybody else can come swoop in, how would you structure this? What would you suggest that they accomplish?
Well, you're going to have to structure something with a 4-year, I would imagine 4 years, although it sounded like they were willing to give him, I think, 2 years, close to $54 million, which is 27, per year. That's going to be curious. I'm not sure. We didn't really get much detail on that as to how they could possibly do that. But it's going to be interesting to see if that's the direction that they go. I did write an article about this. I came up with a projection based on a couple of different projections that are already out there. Looking at about a 4-year deal for $114 million. That's a lot. There's just a lot of things that are going to go into that. I mean, you're looking, if it's a 4-year deal for, 120, that's, you're talking $30 million a year. In this case, you're talking 28. So is he going to be willing to do that, considering he wanted to be the top defender in the NFL? Now you're in a situation where Nick Bosa even topped, Aaron Donald's contract. So you're in a situation where it makes it a little bit harder if he's pushing for that type of money. The reality for Kansas City is you couldn't really afford to give him the 32.5 tag this year. That's just not something that you probably could have done. There's still other moves that they can do to get a little bit more cap space. But it's, that's something they're going to have to work on. And I will say the cap number got updated a little bit. I think they're closer to $3.5 million right now for 2024, which isn't enough to do really anything in free agency. So I'm expecting more moves. And I think that there's another move that needs to probably be made. And that's maybe look at extending Justin Reed, bringing his cap number down. He's still young enough to where he could play for another 3 or 4 years and still be pretty good in Kansas City. So to me, I think you have the flexibility to do it, but I have a hard time seeing it getting done by the 11th, especially if Jones's agents are digging in or Jones digs in and wants to be at 30. I can't see Kansas City going that far. So at that point, you allow him to test the market and see what he's going to get somewhere else. And Ryan needs to turn on his mic again.
I agree with you. I don't think I can see that getting done. But you never know. I hope that the personal relationships this is built on afford it a little bit more probability to getting there. How do they do that? It's going to be interesting. And I do think there could be some creative cap in there. But do you have any explanation? Is this all unexpected bonuses that hit, or what was the cap adjustment related to?
Yeah, I think it's incentives that got hit that have been adjusted. It's also, we talked about this the other day. 3 players got bumps in their base salary, so I think that's part of it as well. But you look at this, and this is just going to be where the Chiefs are. They've got to figure out what they're going to do cap wise. And I talked about Justin Reed earlier. Another one that they could look at is they could restructure Jawan Taylor. He's still got 3 years left on his deal. You could restructure, and you could drop his cap number from, what is it, 25 million right now to a lot less. And the thing that you look at when you start doing restructures like that is Taylor is young enough that he's going to play out his contract more than likely. I don't think Kansas City's going to be moving on from him. He played well, regardless of the penalties. I think he played well enough to show that he's deserves to be here. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. And then you look at, just his ability on the field. I don't think you can go and replace that guy in the next couple of years unless you're going to go draft a right tackle. And I don't think he's going to be moving. So I think Kansas City is going to be having to focus on the left-hand side.
I hope that they can. There's a lot to get done there. Protection is going to be a theme that we're going to discuss closer to the combine as well. To the draft as well. A couple of guys did show up at the combine. A couple more didn't. That I do think are going to be on the Chiefs' radar.
Interesting when you talk about the protection and whatnot. Peter Schrager, who we've had on the show before, of GMFB fame, an NFL reporter, talked about he thinks that there could be 12 linemen that go in the first round. 12.
That's astounding if it is. But
the most ever is 5.
Yeah, it's crazy. But there's a lot of possibilities, and some teams that could use that might actually belong in the AFC West because there's some things changing. We're gonna run you down what has changed, not only in the West, but a big retirement got done today that is related to Chiefs Kingdom, not directly, but Jason's speech was very much touching, and I think it pulled in Chiefs Kingdom quite a bit. So we'll get that right after this on the Locked On Podcast Network. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet right now on FanDuel. That's $150 if your bet wins. Super straightforward and simple. Bet all your favorite NBA players with the teams that you're looking for, whether it's quick bets, same game parlays, exclusive props, and everything else under the sun. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot today. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon at FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the NFL. On the Locked On Sports Today feed, you can get 24/7 coverage, all the major sports stories here from the Locked On Podcast Network. You'll see our faces on there. It is our offseason, but you never know what's going to happen. Chris Jones is likely going to bump us up. And you're also going to see all the other major stories that you want to check it out. It is 24/7, so whenever you're on, it's on. Go check it out at Locked On Sports Today here on YouTube.
Before we jump into this Chiefs opponents rebuild topic, could you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you just go ahead and say that the Chris Jones deal will not get done?
Folks, if you haven't been with us for all 8 years of this show, generally when I say specific things like a contract getting done, and it is generally a financial issue, the exact opposite happens. So Chris is trying to bait me into doing that. I'm not putting that out in the universe this time, though. So I refuse. But
come on,
the meaning is there, and I'm totally with you.
Well, it started with Travis Kelce, which is kind of going to lead us right into the conversation that we were about to have about Jason.
It absolutely is. The thing that I love about Jason Kelce, and folks, if you haven't seen it, Jason Kelce officially retired today. Travis was there supporting his brother. They're both crying like babies, and I personally appreciate that. As a girl dad, maybe more so than most, I'll cry at TV shows. I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. And Jason might be the one guy in football America that cries more than me. And so just shout out to Mr. Kelce. I appreciate that.
I had no problem with the emotions that both of those guys showed. It shows you how much this means to them. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand that they're playing. They love the game. Well, okay, let me be clear. Those two love the game. There are some NFL players that don't, and they're chasing paychecks. Those two aren't chasing paychecks. if Kelce wanted to, to be clear, if Jason Kelce wanted to, he could play next year and probably 2 years after that and still get paid by some team. It's not, but to me, he wants to do it the right way. He wants to go out at the top versus a guy that feels like he's going to be declining. And don't get me wrong, there's also a lot of things that go into being an NFL player and a lot of sacrifices they have to make. So I'm sure that has a part in it too.
It certainly does. It's nice to see that come around, though. Heck of a career. Congratulations to Jason Kelce. Another career that is changing, I don't think it's over, but I do think it's changing, is in Denver.
Yeah, it is. I just want to say one thing. Congrats to Jason Kelce on your retirement, and I feel sorry for whoever has to take his place at center next year for the Eagles because they're going to be in the middle of that tush-push plague, which is not going away, and if they're not as successful, which is what I expect, you're going to know one of the reasons that they were.
So I don't know that Kylie's going to wear anything red and gold, but expect Jason to be in the suites a little bit more next season. Yep. I dig the overall, so cheers to him. Another career that is changing today, announced out in Denver, the rebuild's begun. Sean Payton has jettisoned Russell Wilson, and that just after 2 years of a gargantuan trade. There is going to, I think, be fallout in the Broncos front office following the draft. That's usually when they're going to overturn front office personnel. So just hold tight for that. But it is definitely something that the Chiefs need to keep an eye on. The Broncos will be in the hunt for the quarterback draft class. There's going to be a lot of back and forth on that. And the thing that is resounding to me is it's been a spectacular run. Yes, they got off the schneid against the Chiefs this year, but being able to bring in a rookie always what's cracked up to be if you're not prepared. They have a large rebuild to do in Denver in particular, and the quarterback isn't the only thing that they need.
No, and to be clear how bad this trade was for Denver, draft picks in 2022, 9th, 40th, 145th. In 2023, 5th and 37th. So 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and then players Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris, and $124 million in cash for a 11-19 record as Denver starter with a 90.8 passer rating. And he is going to count $85 million against the cap in the next 2 years. That's why they're waiting to the new league year so they can make him a June 1st cut. They will get some money back. It will not be much because his contract is subject to him going out and getting another deal. But if the team that signs him, all they got to do is just say, okay, well, we'll give you league minimum base salary, and because you're already getting paid $39 million this year. So it's a huge deal for Denver. They're losing $85 million against the cap for a guy that's not going to play for him for the next 2 years.
So if you don't want to help the Denver Broncos, just hold off extra trips to Walmart and, don't let them recoup those coffers so quickly.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it in the West, and obviously the Broncos are the latest here. There's a new coach in Los Angeles. There's a new coach in Las Vegas. I think they're a little bit more troublesome in that Antonio Pierce has definitely taken on the personality of the Raiders. The Raiders of old even already talking trash about the Chiefs. I will take his comments about the Jordan rules applying to Patrick Mahomes as respect. Yeah. But it's
that
very
one bothers me a little bit. That one bothers me just a little bit. I get it, but I hope that is something that is being watched because that could be devastating to Kansas City. You look at the Broncos situation, like I said, $85 million and losing all that out. And they're not going to get the draft picks back that they had. They're not going to get any of that back. And yeah, they have to rebuild. They have to try to figure out how to make it work. But man, that is a brutal cap. Last thing I will say on Russell Wilson, he signed a 5-year, I think it was a 5-year deal when he went to Denver. He never played a single snap under that deal. That deal is supposed to start this year in 2024, not playing a single snap under it.
Yeah, it was a tack-on extension, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, there's going to be changes in Denver coming. Mm-hmm. Just keep an eye out for that. But for now, the rebuild begins. The rebuild here is already running. We're going to keep you run down on all the free agency talk, all the combine talk. I have lots of that coming, and we're going to give you a refreshed, an early edition of the athletic matrix before all the fancy graphics and all that. Really simplified. If you're interested in that, go to rogueapc.com and use the code, if nobody's listening, Locked On, and get yourself a nice discount over there. Going to have a lot of products this year as well as the draft guide, so be prepared for that. We're going to run it all down here on Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every single day. And you locos, I know you guys are here every day. Spread the word. We'd like to make more. The locos are our lifeblood. They are always here. Rain, snow, sleet, the whole 9 yards mailbox slogan from years past. You can even get more at 816-357-8781 on our text line. We appreciate you guys being with us today. Thanks for making this show go. It is full swing in free agency here. A lot of decisions coming. We appreciate you spending your time with us today, and we will talk with you tomorrow.